it's up to brother here, the pastor, if he wants me to start that in details, or if you want me to move on to the next section, because there's about 3 sections to this message. So I can move on to the second section. Which one would you like? Yeah. Yeah. Well, I feel that we should build up the introduction, because that message, the first message, the introduction to what the biblical standard is. And so before I do that, uh, although we don't have a large screen and this hasn't been arranged so much as it should be, I'd like to play a video, and it's of utter importance, and it's from current events. So, and if you can. Office where President Donald Trump is meeting with Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky. Let's go ahead and listen. Between us. Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to have the President of Ukraine with us. We've had a lot of good discussions, a lot of good talks, and I think progress is being made, very substantial progress in many ways. We had a good meeting, as you know, just a short while ago with the President of Russia, and I think there's a possibility that something could come out of it, and today's meeting is very important. We have, I guess, the seven very powerful leaders from Europe, and we're going to be meeting with them right after this meeting, and thank you very much for being here. Thanks so much, Mr. President. So pay attention to what Zelensky will say to Trump, because that's the important point, and we will see what that means, and I'll start my message after that. If I can, first of all, thank you for the invitation, and thank you very much for your efforts, emotional efforts to stop killings and stop this war. Thank you, and using this opportunity to make thanks to your wife, First Lady of the United States. She sent a letter to Putin about our children, and my wife, she First Lady of Ukraine. She gave the letter. It's not to you, to your wife. I want so it's a sensitive topic. Thanks to our partners, and that you supported this 4 months after our meeting. We're going to have leaders who are around us. UK, France, Germany, Finland, EU, I mean, all partners around Ukraine supporting us. Thanks to them, and thank you very much, Mom. Okay, so that's enough of this video. What I want to highlight is that we saw President Putin coming in on the news, and the big jets, Bomber 5 or whatever they're called, B5s, flying over him, which is even America owns only 19 of those jets, and they are the most powerful like jets, war jets in the world at the moment, and they can fly anywhere and bomb anywhere without being detected. So that does flew over him, but before all this might and display of manhood and authority and all of that, it started by Melania, the wife of Trump, writing a simple letter to Putin and saying, we need to do something. People are suffering. Trump, when he first came, he said, I'll stop it in 2 days. Right? But it was Melania's letter that touched Putin's heart to bring him to negotiate with Trump. All the threats of Trump of I'll do sanctions, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do this, did not move the other leader. It was the woman's touch that actually moved us into negotiation of peace. And it was also the woman's touch from the other side, Zelensky,
his wife thanking the other woman. Now, it is very important for me. This tells us like uh, about a lot of things, which I'll come to in my sharing. So I want you to bear this in your mind as I'm talking, because my talk is going to be sounding like I am all for men, right? It is not. I am here to bring you the pure word of God. Whether you like it or you don't like it, that's not, I can't help it. It is what has been written, and it's what we need to accept. So now, so having said that, I will move to uh, my message. And can someone please read for me from Genesis 1:26? It's a wonderful age of electronics. So even I am using the phone. So yes. So it's not fast. I actually didn't find a paper in my bedroom because, and I couldn't write any notes. So I decided to email myself. And that's how I did it. So.
And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish and the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth.
Yeah, keep going.
So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female. He created them.
That's good. Okay, so God created man, and man was made in the image of God. That's what in his own image, in his own likeness, right? So, and the reason, the purpose of and destiny of man was to rule the earth, right? To rule, the earth, and to subdue it, not just rule it, but subdue it. In other words, it will obey him. It will, produce whatever, do whatever for him. So, so basically, that is what man's role is, and man's destiny is to rule the earth. And the first man, according to many theologians, was androgynous. It says male and female. Man was male and female, and that means until today, I have spoken this, is that we as men have that feminine side in us, right? But we are not in touch with that feminine side for two reasons. Number one is because we are brought up environmentally, not genetically, but environmentally, to be a male. And genetically, we are a male. We cannot deny that because XX is XX and XY is XY. You can't say biologically, you cannot say I'm a different sex, right? Or I'm not a female, I'm a male. Biologically, scientifically speaking, if you're XX, you're XX. If you're a woman, you're a woman. If you are a man, you're a man. And so we come to this thing is that man had the feminine side of him. And we can see that in when Jesus was on the face of the earth and he asked, "Who do you think I am?" And some of them answered, they said Jeremiah. Why did they say Jeremiah? Because Jeremiah is being, and Jeremiah has got a book called Lamentation. He was lamenting and praying for his own people, because in the days of Jeremiah, the Chaldeans came and carried the rest of the Jewish people who were leftovers in Judea, and so they took him away. The Chaldeans took him away, and that was the end of Israel as we knew it, right? So he was crying for God, and he was always praying. So he was a type of a person that is very emotional. And so Jesus, the Christ of Nazareth, because there are many Jesuses, right? There's Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Uh, he was identified as Jeremiah. Reason being, because he showed emotions. He cried when he was told in John, when he was told that Lazarus was dead. Right? He cried. He cried when he was entering Jerusalem. So he showed emotions. He cried. He had compassion over people. So for a man to develop to the full stature of manhood, he needs to be close to God. Jeremiah was close to God, close to God's heart, and he became like God. He became compassionate. He became, and in Matthew 5, we are encouraged by Jesus Christ of Nazareth to be like our Father in heaven. Our Father in heaven is compassionate, is loving, is forgiving. So therefore, these qualities are needed. The soft nature of the feminine side are needed even in men, not just for women. But we are, most men feel vulnerable if they are, if they act emotionally, if they open themselves emotionally, they feel very vulnerable. So because they don't know where that will lead. But most men, because women are more intelligent than men naturally, so they know, emotionally intelligent, so they know how to control the emotions of men, and they know how to win their hearts. Right? Men don't know, that they are actually being maneuvered with their emotions, and that happens a lot in a relationship. I can't really go too much into that, but it's not negative. It's mostly positive. Sometimes it can be negative, right? So like anything, emotions, tools, anything that you can do, you can use a knife to cook, and you can use a knife to stab somebody. So there are good things to use the knife for, and there are bad things to use the knife for. Emotions are the same. You can manipulate somebody through their emotions, and that's where we have to be careful that we are not manipulating people through their emotions. So now that's on the side of emotions. Now, so we have, before woman was created, man was created. That is what Paul is stating in Timothy, saying that man was created first, and man was not deceived, right? It was the woman that was deceived. Although there is another way to look at that, which I'll come to. Now, so the thing is about, so man, he's authorizing man to be an authority in the church, and he's saying that I do not permit a woman to teach men, right? So in the Jewish tradition, a woman is allowed to teach. A woman is allowed to teach women, and they always mentor the rabbi's wife will always mentor other women, right? And but a man can teach both. However, he will not, there's a bit of segregation in Judaism, so he will not really teach women, right, directly, unless his wife is with him, or unless they're in a congregation. He will teach, but the woman, his wife, is responsible to teach the other woman about their duties. So now that's why Paul is coming from that perspective, because he's a Jewish guy and he understands how synagogue operated in his time. So now, does that apply to our daily, our nowadays church or not? We will continue to explore that. My take on this is like, because people come up with ideas like, okay, Deborah was another figure who became a leader in the Old Testament, and she went to war and with the leader, with another leader who led the war, but she became the winner. She said, "I will win the war for them, and I will rule," because he insisted that she has to come with him. So now that's an example that has been given. Now that wasn't accomplished without the help of a man. The woman was strengthened by a man being next to her. That's very essential. And the other thing is that the Dabura is an exception, and there are other women that have been an exception in the Word of God. Now, important thing, when a vessel is being used by God or chosen by God to be used, right? That is up to God's. If He chooses to do so, then He will. And He will defy the normal, right? But in this case, it wasn't actually defying the normal, because the man was there and the woman was there. So it was a combined achievement by man and woman. Now, but there are women that have been, like prophets, prophetesses, right? We see that in the New Testament when Jesus was actually being, offered to God. There was a prophetess that came and prophesied. In Luke, we read that. So, and also in Acts, we read about 7 sisters, I think, that are prophetesses, that are, virgins, 7 virgins that were prophetesses, and they were prophesying. And I think they prophesied to Paul or somebody in the New Testament. So we read about this, that there is like a place for a woman, and God does use a woman, right? However, there are certain like avenues that have been given. So the priesthood, for instance, has never been allocated to any woman, right? Being the head of the priest, like the high priesthood was only a man. It is important to, when we are reading the Word of God, is to understand what it is. Now, when God speaks to Adam and Eve, right, there is pronouns that have been used for God, and the same pronoun that has been used for Adam has been used for God. But the pronouns that they use for the woman, it's a female, because in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Arabic, a female has a different ending in the word, especially in Aramaic, because that's the mother of all Hebrew and Arabic. So in Aramaic, it is important that a female, when a female talks, is actually a female. You can tell that it's a female talking, because she will have the end of the words different from the male. every word she pronounces, it has something, a letter added to it that will be different. For instance, if I say, if I am if you ask me as a man, how are you? I'll say spy win. So I am spy win. If I ask you as a female, how are you? You will say spy one. So so just by even like if when you write it, you know that it's female talking. And in this case, when it was written, when God was talking, it was a male talking to Adam and Eve, addressing them, why did you do this? And when the woman answers, she answers like a female. She doesn't answer as a male. But this is lost in the English language, right? And therefore, we have people who says now they are changing the prayer of the Lord and saying, no, we shouldn't just say our Father in heaven. We should say our Father and Mother in heaven, right? So this is where we are erring because we do not have the original. We do not go back to the original. So now, why am I speaking to this? Now, the reason why is there are covenants. There are two covenants that God has initiated from the beginning. One is a covenant of man with God. The other one is a covenant of woman with man, right? How do we know there is a covenant between man and God, right? Number one is man, when he was created, he was put in the independently without a woman in the Garden of Eden. He said to him, tend the garden. Now, man was taken from the earth, right? That's what we read. That man was taken from the earth, and man was formed from the earth. But the problem with that particular uh, saying in English is that it doesn't give you the exact word. And we know that the first man was called Adam, but we don't know why. Now, the reason why Adam was called Adam is not actually Adam, it's Adam. And in the original, if you read it, it says that Adam was taken from Adamta. Now, Adam is a male figure. Adamta is a female figure, right? So Adamta is the earth, but not the earth that we understand. Not the whole earth, not just anywhere. Adamta is a particular form of earth. Adamta is the reason you have Adam and Adam, it's actually Adam and Adamta, right? The reason why we have that is because them in three languages, right? In Aramaic, Hebrew, and Arabic is blood. What color is blood? Now, when you go to places like Western Australia, where it is actually rich with iron, you will see the land is red. So when you're actually right talking about like what is Adamta is a red. It means a red earth. So minerals, right, of iron. If you go to a doctor, and I shared that before, if you go to a doctor and you lack blood cells, the doctor will straight away prescribe you iron tablets, red earth, iron tablets. You see, and this is where we have the science meeting with God, with God's word, right? So it is Adamta, and that's why it's important to understand and go back to the original language. Adamta is a red part of the earth, not just any earth, but red part of the earth. And the red part of the earth is minerals and iron, mainly iron, right? And what is in our blood? iron. And then the next thing God in another place, he says, do not drink the blood, for in it is the soul. Well, soul is a different word that came from psyche, that came from the Greek language, and that does not exist in the original Aramaic and Hebrew language. Gana, right, or self, right, self. Gana is self. And the other thing is breath. So God, when he breathes into the nostrils of Adam, he becomes a living soul. A living soul, it's we are told, but no, it's a living self, right? So he becomes a living self, a living identity, a living person, right? That's what and he says, thou shalt not eat the blood in an animal, right? Because the soul is there in the blood. Well, it is the breath of God that's in the blood. Scientifically, when you are actually breathing, you ask any scientist, they will say to you that when you breathe, it goes in your lungs and straight into your blood, right? Now, and also, it's a common knowledge. If I hold your breath for 3 minutes, you're dead, right? It's gone. So really, it's that breath, no matter how great I am, no, like Trump, somebody so powerful like Trump, and he says, I'm gonna put 50% tariff on China, right? How did he make that? He made it with the breath, right? My voice is reaching you because of the living breath that is in me, right? Any person, whether it be Trump or anybody, God can hold his breath and he's finished. We are finished. We are just a breath away from death. When we understand that, we understand the fragility of our position before God. We cannot speak without giving praise to the one who gave us the breath, right? So it is important for us to understand these things that I'm actually bringing out of the word. Now, so getting back to our subject, the covenant between man. Where is the covenant actually placed on man? And what was that will bring us to chapter 17 of Genesis, right? Where actually there's a lot of information, as you can see. I'm not going to go to every verse. So chapter 17 of Genesis speaks to Abraham, and God says to him, my covenant with you is to circumcise everybody that is in your household, even the servants, right? So God has put that extra piece of meat on man, in order to man will have to willingly submit and willingly circumcise, right, that himself, to have a covenant with God. That's what it is. And then woman, when she's a virgin and she marries a man, her covenant is with the man. So that brings us to the law of God. What is the law of God? The law of God says that when a woman, and that's in Numbers, when a woman makes an oath before God, right, and her husband hears it and says nothing, the earth stands. If the husband says no, he hears it and says no, right, you can't do that, then she's forgiven. She doesn't have to do it, right? And there's no judgment neither on the man nor on the woman. And if the woman is not married, if the father hears it and he says nothing, the earth stands, right? But if the father hears it and says no, then it's dissolved. It's finished. So here we see that the authority that there is in the scripture, right? Not that a woman is less, right? But that there's an order. There's an order. And I was saying to the congregation yesterday that anybody, like we have, the governments have one head. Have you seen two prime ministers ruling, or two presidents ruling a country? It doesn't happen. It's one president. Then you come to a company, a chairman. You come to an organization, same thing. You come to a school, headmaster. You come to anywhere. There's one person that will eventually lead. And this is leadership. We're talking about leadership here. And leadership has been given in our society, in the godly order, to men. Now, that does not take any significance from a woman. As we saw, a woman in her own place is very effectual. You have Esther, right, who was placed next to the most powerful person. We have this. We all know the story of Esther, the superpower that she was married to, a king of Persia, right, and she saved her people, right, and her uncle says to her, why don't you know that you were given your position for such a time? For such a time. Now, everyone in their own position, with their own vessel that God has given them. We are vessels of God. With their own vessel, right? There comes a time for them to shine. And a woman can shine from her place, and a man can shine from his place. And uh, there's always, Abraham Lincoln, historically, has been, he's one of the presidents of America, right? But from what I read about him, he learned reading and writing and everything later in life. And the one that was actually behind Abraham Lincoln, that made him a great man, was his wife. His wife and her support for him, he made him a great man, made him the president of the most, well, it wasn't the most powerful country then, but it was the most important country because they were forming themselves, right? And he became, and that country, now we have it, that it's the leader of the world and leader of democracy in the world, main representative of the democracy. So now, this is important. It is important to know your position. And it's important that men take up their position as leaders, right? And the women support them, right? Now, I was talking to Brother Bruce, and I was saying, like, in Christianity, let's assume, because nowadays we have Korea woman. A woman will say, no, I don't want children, I don't want marriage, I want to achieve, I want to be independent. That's good, it's very good. I'm not against that, Uh, if a woman wants to do that, she's free to do that, especially in our society now. But the thing is, can you imagine an angel coming down from heaven to Mary and saying, Mary, you're gonna be pregnant. Oh, no, I still have to finish my university. And if I'm pregnant, I'm going to have an abortion. Imagine what would have the history, how would have history panned out if she said no? Right. So we tend to discount the position of a woman, but Mary, knowing submission and knowing God and being godly woman, she said yes. and she accepted it, and she said, I am the servant of the Lord, right? And she accepted that according to the story, right? She accepted that. And then she was, quiet. It doesn't say that Mary, she went and argued with, oh, I'm pregnant from God, blah, 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 with Joseph. No, there's no such thing written. Joseph found out, right, that Mary was pregnant. From there on, God wasn't speaking to Mary anymore. He spoke dream after dream to Joseph and led Joseph to lead his family. You see? Now, this is what do we learn from the story? We learn that a godly woman will submit to God first. A godly woman will have a godly man in her life, right? And she will trust God that he will lead him to make righteous decisions, right? This is an important thing. So when we say a woman must submit, and this the way it's been written, I was listening to one of the Christian teachers. The way it's been written in Ephesians, that a man should love his wife like Christ loved the church. I'll tell you one thing, right? A genuine man will have no problems loving his wife, because I tell you, most of the time, 100%, he's emotionally dependent on the woman. He's emotionally dependent. She is so sweet in his heart, right? One smile is worth heaps for him, right? So that's, I'm talking about genuine men, not men who are, flirtatious or, but a genuine righteous man, right? So, and a woman holds a very special position in the heart of man, right? And not only in his heart, but we saw that not only in his heart, but in the heart of Putin, that woman was able to affect him, right? It is important to know your position. It's important to know where you are and what God wants from you. And it's important to submit, not only for the woman, but the man has to submit to God, because he's got a covenant with God. When a man is submitted to God and a woman is submitted to God, there's no problems, because they both know their position and they know who they are, and they don't have to be above. Look, we never know, you know. When Jesus was asked, by the mothers of the John and his brother or something, said, put one of my sons on your right hand and one on your left hand, right? He said, no, that is not up to me. It's up to the Father. We don't know. You might go to heaven and you might see Mary on his right hand. How would you know? You might see Esther on the left hand, right? You don't know. You don't know whose position is that. I'll tell you one thing that has been lost in the evangelical churches is the model of a righteous woman. They don't give you a model of a righteous woman to follow. You are left with Jesus, which is a male figure. And they hardly talk about Mary. They hardly talk about, how a righteous woman does things, I'm not talking to you about worshiping Mary. That's a separate issue. But looking at the life of Mary, it is important for every woman in the church. Looking at the submission of Mary. Not only looking, there are some books that we have ignored, right? About the childhood of Jesus, about the thing, like these forefathers of the church written some books that are been left out from the Bible, and I don't blame them, because the focus has to be on God, right? So, but it would be beneficial to read those books, to understand, to have a broader sense of what happened, and to also see how there are certain books that speaks about Mary actually leading the disciples in prayer, right? So we've forgotten all of that. That's part of the church tradition, right? And Mary seeing visions, right, about what happened, about the ascendance and descendants of Christ. Now, these are, while we should not put them above the Bible, but we should not totally ignore them either, right? We need to give them their rightful place. So, because the Bible has been given to us by, the forefathers, and the forefathers were closer to the, initial events, and they decided that these are the books that we need. Right? These are the books that we need. So we focus on the books that we have, but we also need to read broader and to broaden our understanding. Now, so here we come to the covenant. So the authority to manhood was given, to man was given the authority before woman even was created, according to the Bible, right? The work tending the environment was given to man. Man, the reason why it was given to man, because man has to learn. Before woman arrived, he was actually dealing with small plants that were just coming out of the ground. If you just blow on it, the plant could die. So he needed to tend like delicate things. And then he was given the animals, so he can learn how to deal with wild animals, right? But here we read in the story where when the animals, chapter 2, I'm not going to refer to chapter 2, but you can read it in your own time. In chapter 2, and I think it's around verse 15, 16, it talks about when God saw man, put him in the garden, he said it's not good for him to be alone. Before man even realized that he was alone. So he brings the animals to him to name them. And suddenly man realizes that he needs a partner. Why? Because in Aramaic, when you say this is a cat is a male, the female is katet, right? So he's going cat, katet, cow, cowette, whatever, like it's of course cow and bull, but cow, cowette, the lion, lionette, whatever, or lioness, so he's going like this and he said, hold on. So it just landed, and man is a bit slow, like emotionally, right? So it just hit him. Where is my partner? It says, but for himself did not see a partner. Really? You are looking amongst the animals for a partner? Really? This is how dumb he is. Right? But God knew, right? God knew what his needs are before he knew it. But he started looking later. And this is a perfect picture for how we grow. We're like, okay, I'm a like a boy, and then I turn into a teenager, and suddenly my eyes notices females, right? And it's that, let's say, we start acting on nature rather than acting from in teenage years. we start acting because of the hormones, let's say. They push us a certain way, right? So it's like animalistic thinking, It's not really. So you are actually, looking amongst the animals, right? To find a partner. But when we mature up, right, we end up finding a true partner. And so God had a real partner for him. And the partner did not come from amongst the animal, from out there. It came from within him. Because it is important. When you need a partner, you look within yourself. Yourself will tell you what type of partner you need. Yeah? You have to understand yourself in order to know what partner you need. If you don't understand yourself, it is a waste of time looking out there. First, understand yourself. So he gives them. It talks about the rib, and a rib was taken out of him, and it was formed, right, into a woman. And as soon as the man sees it, right, he goes crazy. Really, he goes crazy. I'm telling you that he goes crazy. Why? Because you know all this time God is like, he made him, he supported him, he put him in a garden, he gave him instructions on how to live, what to do, what to eat, what not to eat. He was just developing this man, and he puts him to sleep, right? I don't know what happened in that sleep, but when he wakes up, right, he's got this woman in front of him, and he says, "This is a bone of my bone and a flesh of my flesh." Therefore, now there was no husband, no wife, no son, no father. He says, "Therefore, a man shall leave his mother and father." How did you know that there's a mother and a father? But you've never been a father, right? But because he had the knowledge of God, he had the knowledge of God, he can see the future, right? And he says, a man will leave his mother and father, and he will cleave to his wife. That's what Adam said, right? Right. He prophesied that the fall of man, right? Now, as I have said before, that okay, if you give me that, if you give me a nice gift, I will say thank you. I will serve you forever. You're my father. Blah blah blah. No, I will leave my father. I will leave God, and I will leave earth, right? My mother, where I came. Why? How? Because later on we see what happened after the fall. They started mining the earth. They started polluting the earth. That's the Cain camp, right? Because they couldn't work the earth anymore because there was a curse upon them. So that pollution starts from the beginning, right? So the earth, took in the blood of, an innocent blood as well. So all of that happened because of these words. So it's not the woman that was deceived, but it was the vision of the man that came to pass. Right? Now, since we've come here this far, right? Where we started is that God said, we will make man in our own image, in our own likeness. Man, now the woman, does her own thing. She's cooking and preparing food for her partner. So she was given a nice fruit, and she says, it's nice, let me eat it. And she gives it to her partner. She's just within her role, functioning within her role, right? And she's using her own judgments, right? She shouldn't have, but she did, right? So anyway, and the fall happens. What we call the fall happens, right? And remember, God said that I will create man in what? In my image and in my likeness. After the fall happens, it's very strange. Now, Satan said something that was half lie, half truth, right? And he said, you will be like God. That's what's going to happen to you. And you know what God said later on? Now man, after he kicked them out, has become like unto us. Really? How come? You said, I create man in our likeness and our image. It's a process. Being in the likeness of God is not like this. It's a process. So he had to fall. So the fall is not a negative thing. It got him closer to God. It made him more like God because God knows good and evil, but he chooses good. Now it's man who has become like God and he can choose good from evil. It's up to him. Now man has become like unto us. And that's God speaking. That's Jehovah speaking, right? Now, God, now you have to understand that this is a process. And in everybody's life today, you and I, there's a process. As we walk, as we read, as we understand, as we worship, right? We will then become more and more like God. The more we go into it, the more we become like God. Now, this is, I don't want to take any longer than this. I hope I've covered some grounds. What I need you to see as well, there is, so from manhood becomes, then there is a husband, the role of a husband. So the role of a husband is, according to the Bible, in Ruth's story, it says, Ruth is saying, extend your border, the border of your cover over me, right? Now, let me tell you something. The dismantling of leadership in family. Look around. How many single women out there? How many single women have had multiple relationships, right? Dishonor. It's dishonoring the woman. When you dismantle the leadership, when you hit, even in the prophecy, it says, hit the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. So when you hit the shepherd, that's it. The sheep will scatter. That's a law of God, right? So when you hit the leadership of the family will disintegrate. Don't expect it to grow and flourish, right? It will only grow and flourish in the order of God, if we follow the order of God, right? And in the next thing, once he becomes a husband, then the next phase is a father, right? And in Ephesians, it says that all fatherhood is taken from God. All fatherhood is taken from God. So all fatherhood on earth and in heaven, right, is God. What does a father mean? What is the word father? The original word of father is source. He is the source. The father is the source. Why is he the source? Because he carries the seed. The man carries the seed. The woman carries the egg. It's the same process that the seed has to be in the earth, right? The seed on its own is not great, cannot grow, and the earth cannot produce a seed. But together, they're powerful. They produce life. Together, they produce life, right? And this is important, that togetherness and the leadership of men. And so basically, here, I leave you with this, that we need to understand each one our position. There is another side to this, there's another like I've prepared a 3 like parts message, right? And but I want to end this part here, and the other parts maybe if we have time we'll continue it later. I don't want to bore you because I'm full of details. I'm full of everything. So if you have any questions, please ask me. I'm open for questions. Yeah. Yeah. Any objections as well? It doesn't matter. You can object. No, I didn't like this, or I'm not so sure about this, and I'm ready to engage, with you on issues or other questions.
You talked about women, career, and men.
Yeah.
Can you better elaborate on that?
Sorry, woman.
Women, career, and the role of men.
Well, yesterday was yesterday. They can watch it on the video. I have to promote my channels. Yes, but if you have any questions about the role of man as a career and all that, so I think I shared a bit about Mary and being a career woman and all that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it's important. In our current society, we tend to minimize the role of a mother, right? Which is the most sacred role that God has given to a woman, right? Man cannot ever be a mother, no matter how hard they try, the scientists, right? And even if he can produce children, he cannot be a female. He cannot have the female emotions. He cannot have the female touch. So that is needed. That is needed. A woman. See this vase here. This is a beautiful vase with flowers. That's what a woman is. That's what a woman's in the home. That's what she's a beautiful vase. The children, the whole, the husband, or they're the flowers that are in the woman in that vase. Because the woman is the connection of all relationships. Men cannot connect, but the woman connects everybody. And it's very important to have the vessel or to understand the vessel of a woman and where her position is. You can't put a beautiful vase like this out there, where in the garden. It'll deteriorate. But you protect it. You put it in a nice place, the best place so the beauty of it can be seen. A woman is a good woman. The proverb says is the crown of her husband. Right? The crown, right? Yes, a good woman, a crown of her husband, right? Now, it's very. If you want to know about the good woman, read the final chapter uh, of Proverbs, right? What a good woman is. And you know something, this every Saturday, the Jewish people, when they get together every Friday night and Saturday morning, when they get together to celebrate their Sabbath, that chapter is sung about the good woman every Saturday to remind what a good woman is. And also not just to remind the woman, but to remind the men that you have a good woman. Stick to her. And so this is an important thing. All right. I hope I didn't bore you. God bless you.
I've got a question as well. Are you actually Israeli? Are you Jewish?
I am, yes. By blood.
So you know all the scriptures up by heart, do you do? What?
Well, I know a lot.
Yeah.
I've done 50 years of religion, so.
So without